Hello, my name is B Walk and welcome back to Copy Your Coin, where I show you how to copy your coin in the fastest growing market in world history. Let's get it. Today I'm going to continue my altcoin series on Ethereum, the number 2 altcoin. As you see right here, this is the actual website right here, but as Investopedia has it right here, the number 2 listed Ethereum right here, launched in 2015. Ethereum is a decentralized software platform that enables smart contracts and distributed applications, dApps, to be built and run without any downtime, fraud, control, or interference from a third party. So I'm going to continue to go through this series and get the ins and wherefores and why we're using Ethereum, what I use it for, why I think you should use it for, and why it's worth investing. But before I get into that, I'm going to do 3 things, and you already know what they are. They're going to be: hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit that alert button so that you know when fresh content is out from Copy Your Coin. So let's get into it right away. Like I said, Ethereum right here is the number 2 coin as by Investopedia. If we look at the cryptocurrency market cap, as I say, like I like to use from a large to small view, it is the number 2 in as far as market capitalization at 23 billion currently right now. Bitcoin is 115 billion. The market as a whole is 221 billion. So at one point last week, XRP actually overtook Ethereum as far as when the rally started happening in altcoins, and it was the number 2 position. Ethereum had fell back to 3. As you see, that has now corrected, and Ethereum has about a 2 billion market cap lead on XRP, and that's fine. This is going to switch back and forth. As you can see, the market is relatively mixed today. It's a fairly quiet day in the market. But as we zero in on Ethereum, and that's a real key currency. When you first get involved, everybody knows what Bitcoin is, and they're asking questions. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a simple transactions, a payment system, and it goes on to that. And we kind of talked about that before. Well, Ethereum is the next evolution of that. It comes into place as a second generation cryptocurrency, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that here so that you can kind of get an understanding of what it is. I'm not going to read all of this verbatim word for word. However, I am going to point you to these URLs that you can see and read for yourself, but I will summarize so you kind of get an idea of kind of what's going on. So since before you can understand Ethereum, it helps to first understand the internet. So today, our personal data, passwords, and financial information are largely stored on other people's computers in clouds and servers owned by companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Google. Even this CoinDesk article is stored on a server controlled by a company that charges to hold its data should it be called upon. This setup has a number of conveniences, as these companies deploy teams of specialists to help store and secure this data and remove the costs that come with hosting and uptime. But with this convenience, there is also vulnerability. As we've learned, a hacker or a government can gain unwelcome access to your files without your knowledge, and by influencing or attacking a third-party service, meaning they can steal, leak, or change important information. Brian Berhoff, creator of the Apache web server, has gone so far as to label this centralized design the original sin of the internet. Ethereum is one of the newest technologies to join this movement. While Bitcoin claims to disrupt PayPal and online banking, Ethereum has a goal of using a blockchain to replace internet third parties, those that store data, transfer mortgages, and keep track of complex financial instruments. The quote-unquote world computer. In short, Ethereum wants to become the world computer that will decentralize and some would argue democratize the existing client-server model. With Ethereum, servers and clouds are replaced by thousands of so-called nodes run by volunteers from across the globe, thus forming a world computer. This vision is that Ethereum would enable this same functionality to people anywhere around the world, enabling them to compete to offer services on top of this infrastructure. So essentially what Ethereum proposes to do is to take the internet to the next level, decentralizing it, putting it in a position where developers and individuals who deal in computers and want to build applications can build it on top of that blockchain and on top of those nodes and use that platform to deliver their technology. So that's simply what Ethereum has done, and because of that, it's become the de facto standard for the advent of the ICOs. And they talk about that earlier on. Now, those are called ICOs, or initial coin offerings. I spoke about those in past videos. And basically that's what a lot of companies that were coming out and they said, hey, we're going to offer a new product, be it we're going to offer some type of web service or video service, or we're going to offer this particular service. They were building on the Ethereum blockchain, or what is called ERC20 tokens. And this article goes on to describe exactly what that means and kind of how that is dispersed throughout the internet. So if we look in particular, what is Ether? Okay, so we explore what is Ethereum. Ether is actually what the cost is, the tokens for Ethereum. So while no one owns Ethereum, the system that supports this functionality isn't free. Rather, the network needs Ether, a unique piece of code that can be used to pay for the computational resources needed to run an application or a program. Like Bitcoin, Ether is a digital bearer asset similar to a security like a bond issued in physical form. Just like cash, it doesn't require a third party to process or approve a transaction. But instead of operating as a digital currency or payment, Ether seeks to provide fuel for the decentralized apps on the network. While this might sound complicated, you can think of a more concrete example of how tokens might power a user experience. Let's go back to the example of a decentralized online notebook. To post, delete, or modify the note, you need to pay a transaction fee in Ether to get the network to process the change. In this way, Ether has sometimes been called digital oil. And taking this analogy further, Ethereum transaction fees are calculated based on how much gas the action requires. Each action costs an amount of gas that's based on the computational power required and how long it takes to run. A transaction costs 500 gas, for example, which is paid in Ether. So, no one knows the total number of Ether yet, and the pace of Ether creation will be less clear after 2017 when Ethereum plans to move to a new proof-of-stake consensus algorithm. This is basically the long and short of how Ethereum, like what we're actually buying when you go on to Coinbase or you're going onto some exchange and you're buying Ethereum. This is my de facto currency, transaction currency of choice personally. I can use Ethereum to buy on Coinbase, to buy on Binance. I can also use it to perform transactions on other exchanges, be it Kraken, be it what is the other ones? Qcoin. So Ethereum is kind of universal in that you can use that and change that to any altcoin you want, or you can simply hold Ethereum. And I do think that it's going to do well. Okay, so in the third page, they talk a little bit about what is the system. So this is more so about how is Ethereum going to change? Like what are they looking to change? And if you remember me talking before, we had wallets when you talk about cryptocurrency, because what you're actually holding, you're not holding the currency. Again, like I said, you're holding the private keys. And so you have Ethereum wallets, which are online, desktop wallets, which are attached to your desktop, or mobile wallets, which are attached to your mobile client, like on a phone or an iPhone, iPad, or a tablet. And then you have hardware wallets, which is my personal favorite. And this is a hardware wallet here, the Ledger. And then paper wallets, which also is a good way to keep your information. Obviously, it's disconnected from the internet, as is my hardware wallet. But it's an opportunity to keep your data safe and hacker free. And so Ethereum was instrumental in kind of kicking this off, this spur of people determining how to keep their cryptocurrency and then what they're buying. So once you have the Ether, what do you do with it? Okay, so as I'm saying, this is an opportunity for you to kind of look at what's next. B-Walk, should we be buying Ether for an investment? It's a great question. According to this article, and it'll pop up here in a moment, Tom Lee, Ethereum will rally strongly up to 1900 by the end of 2019. That's a pretty bullish statement. Not unprecedented though, because certainly I saw Ethereum, when I first got involved in the Ethereum market, I think it was trading for around $300 or $400 late last year. I want to say like November, October time frame. And I was able to buy some, and it rallied all the way up to $13.49. So that was a pretty big move. I tripled my money in that, and I sold out a number of my positions. I didn't sell out all of it because I was still using that. But as you see, so 1900 is not out of the realm of possibility. This article goes on to say, or to give the reasons why Lee thinks that this is going to be the case, and then he says Bitcoin is going to be a currency that's going to trade up to 22 to 25,000. That remains to be seen. We'll see. But at any rate, Ethereum is going to be a top currency. I think that's definitely settled, and you will see it in the future. So that being said, let's look at the chart. Okay, as you see the chart here, Ethereum has had quite the correction, actually. As I said before, it was at 1349, and you see that it has since dropped, and it's been it was at 300 for a moment, tried to hold that level and fell, and we were below 200 for the last, I don't know, the early part of September, and just now have actually crossed back over the 200 level, to over 220, and trying to find some support to build to get back to this level right here. Now these two purple lines I drew, these are some key levels as I remember them, because as you can see right here. So for example, remember I talked about support becomes resistance, resistance can become support. So at this point, this is back in June earlier this year, you saw that Ethereum was bouncing on this particular line. This is about your 420 mark, and bouncing here, then it broke through, and once it broke through, it fell all the way down to, really quickly, as you see, all the way down to 300. Bounced here for a little bit, fell again, and then this floor became resistance, as you can see right here, and it's since fallen from that point. Now we've got a floor price about 180. I didn't draw a purple line, but you could have, and certainly it's building from here. This is going to be a resistance point, but it will be curious to see what happens when it gets up to 300. If we can get past this, it again can turn into support, and then we can build higher from there. As I was saying before, I like to use Ethereum to buy my altcoins, my other altcoins. So be it Cardano, Monero, Stellar, Lumen, either one of all of them, I'm using Ethereum. You can use Bitcoin, but I typically find Ethereum is more of a utility token in those transactions, so it has worked for me. But I do keep a certain amount of Ethereum in my portfolio because I'm a believer that I do think this will rally. Now, do I think this will be the next Bitcoin? I don't know. And to be honest, you have to find your own, you have to make your own, draw your own conclusions to that. However, I think it's worth looking into. Again, all of the articles I talk about will be in the description, so you'll be able to see those. You can see right here in the last page that I have pulled up. Let's see if it'll pop up here. Who created Ethereum? And you get a picture right here of an individual. His name is Vitalik Buterin, a programmer from Toronto, first grew interested in Bitcoin in 2011. And so it kind of gives the background of how he got involved and got started. And interestingly enough, one of the other programmers involved was Charles Hoskins, who's also one of the founders of Cardano, which is considered the third generation cryptocurrency. Okay, so that's it. That's the last part of this particular altcoin that I'm going to talk about. The next one will probably be a Cardano, because I'll get more involved in that. But question of the day: what altcoin do you think is going to be more popular than Ethereum? Could it be Cardano? Could it be Bitcoin? Do you think Bitcoin is going to stay where it is? Do you think it's going to be something else I haven't talked about? Possibly EOS, possibly Stellar Lumen, possibly Monero. I don't know. But anyway, I would like to thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time on Cop Your Coin.